Hi, good people. I'm up early today. It's 6:17 a.m. in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, welcome to my platform where I deliver educational, reflective, and thought-provoking content. I aim to share knowledge with intention and respect, leveraging the insights I have gained from intuition and research. Thank you for being an essential part of this community, a space for healing and discovering a different understanding of history and esoteric writing. I encourage you to take what resonates with you and what does not resonate with you, put it on the shelf or throw it away. However, I strongly invite you to stay open minded while exploring things. I must admit, I struggle to understand the widespread aberration for someone whose father was an Albion and who was guided by another Albion, one who faced serious accusations of wrongdoing, yet is still regarded as Allah in the flesh. It is challenging for me to trust his words, especially when he is highly esteemed worldwide. I do not think he's an enemy of the system, nor is the system against him. It feels more like a game they are playing in front of the masses, designed to keep people divided and controlled. Who am I speaking of? Louis Farrakhan. Now, this particular video is about Louis Farrakhan. His father is an Albion. He worshiped and says that Wallace D. Farad came in the flesh as the Messiah. He's Allah in the flesh. I'm going to give you my take on Farrakhan. Louis Farrakhan background in early life. Louis Eugene Walcott Louis Farrakhan was born on May 11, 1933. They say in the Bronx, New York City. His mother is Sarah Mae Manning, was an immigrant from St. Kitts, and his biological father was Percival Clark, a Jamaican, a albino Jamaican. After their relationship ended, Sarah married Louis Walcott. Now, I couldn't find nothing on him as far as a picture. Louis Walcott, I couldn't find a picture on him. But I did find a picture on his mother and his biological father, Percival. Now, after their relationship ended, Sarah married Louis Walcott, whose surname Farrakhan adopted. He was raised in the West Indies community of Roxbury, Boston. Farrakhan showed early musical talent and became an accomplished violinist, performing on the Ted Mack Amateur Hour and appearing on Horace Heidt, The American Way in 1953. He also began a professional music career in the 1950s under the stage name The Charmer, performing calypso and metal music, drawing from his Caribbean roots. A recording of him as Lord Charmer can be found online, and I have listed it under the references that I have attached to this video. Back to back, belly to belly, YouTube. Now, education and fraternity involvement. In 1951, Farrakhan attended Western Salem Teachers College. now Western Salem State University, on a track scholarship. While there, he began pledging to the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Inc., a historically black fraternity founded in 1911 at Howard University. However, they say his initiation was halted after a graduate chapter member objected to his membership, resulting in him being blackballed. That's what they say. He later recalled enduring intense hazing during the process, saying, "Boy, they beat the hell out of me." Interesting. Decades later, in February 2019, Farrakhan was made an honorary member of the Omega Phi Phi. The fraternity held a special ceremony and presented him with paraphernalia and a Lifetime Achievement Award. Farrakhan expressed his gratitude, saying, "Thank you to my Omega Phi Phi Fraternity Inc. brothers for presenting me with an honorary membership. As long as we live, let's strive for those fundamental principles that make Omega man a man after God." I wonder who their God is. Omega Phi Phi International Quarters is located at, check this out. Now, I live in Atlanta. It's located at 3951 Snapfinger Parkway, Decatur, Georgia. And I'll give you the zip 30035. Now, what's interesting, Georgia is named after King George. Okay? Now, they told you that King George was a Albion. King George was mixed. He sure was. Now, the Nation of Islam and religious teaching. Farrakhan joined the Nation of Islam, they call it the NOI, in 1955, and was given the Muslim surname Farrakhan by Elijah Muhammad, which was mixed, who led the movement then. The founder of NOI is considered to be Wallace D. FARD, FARD Muhammad, a mysterious figure whom both Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan teach is Allah, God in person. That's what they say about Wallace D. Farad, and the Savior sent to uplift Black people in America. Allah came to us from the holy city Mecca, Arabia, in 1930. He used the name Wallace D. Farad. He began teaching us the knowledge of ourselves, of God, and the devil, and this civilization. Now, you know who they call the devil? They call the Caucasians or the Albions the devils. Interesting that they do that because Farad was a mixed man, or maybe an albino because he looked like one to me. And Elijah was definitely a mixed man with albino and what they call black. And definitely Farrakhan is mixed with albino and black. Okay? Now, interesting. So, when you go to, however, Farrakhan Muhammad identity is controversial. FBI files allege that he was also known as Wallace Dodd Ford and has a criminal record, instead including charging related to fraud and narcotics. The Nation of Islam strongly disputes these claims, calling them a government attempt to discredit their divine figure. Uh, all right. Reflecting and personal observation. This would be mine. In my observation, Louis Farrakhan, birth father, Percival Clark, was an albino, a poet term sometimes used to refer to white people. That's what albino. And just to let you know, the word white has nothing to do with the color of the skin. The white was a word used for the status. So those that call themselves black and those that called that were albinos used the word white as a status. It puts you into a cultural status. Now, is from Jamaica, and his mother, Sarah May Manning, was from St. Kitts. Interestingly, the originator of the Nation of Islam, Wallace Farad, or FARD, was also described by some sources as an Albion. However, Elijah Muhammad and Louis Farrakhan named him as God in person, the savior of black people in America. Huh. Instead of focusing on historical facts alone, Farrakhan has sometimes spoken words that spread hatred toward Albions, calling them devils. This language can be deeply troubling. I have grandchildren whose great grandparents are Albions, and my love for them is natural and unconditional. For me, no ideology or movement should replace love with division, especially not toward children and families of mixed inheritance. Let me just say this little bit. My grandson went to a charter school. My grandchildren, period, went to a charter school, not a public school, but a charter school. And in that school was predominantly what they call black. And he got picked on and was called a white boy. And I didn't know kids can be so cruel. And I did not know firsthand. I knew I have experienced racism. I have experienced prejudice, but I did not know that being a light-skinned person or of a mixed uh, uh, culture that you would be picked on as much as I've heard stories of it, but I had to experience firsthand with my grandson because he was the most lightest. And I told my daughter, take him out of school, homeschool him, because I didn't want him to continue going through that mental stress. I'm just I don't like the fact that if you are from a mixed family, it's okay. If you are not from a mixed family, that's okay too. But you have to learn to respect one another. From my understanding, the mixed children catch hell from the Albions as well as they catch hell from those that call themselves black. That's wrong. And so this man teaches uh, segregation, separation. We don't need to separate. We need to come together and become the human beings that we need to become. Now, I told you in my past, instead of me using the hatred that was spewed out to me as a young adult, I went off on a mission of research to find out why Albions hate it so much. And I found out that Albions hated so much because the Moors had them in slavery. Oh yeah, I'm going to expose it. Yeah. And so as time progressed, then they start mixing with the Albions, which I don't have a problem with. My problem that I have is you try to hide it and you lie about it. That's my problem. And I suspect that these Moors are actually Muslims, which is under Farrakhan division. The Black Panthers did not die off. They sit under the Muslims. Okay? Just wanted to let you know. You know, the problem is I don't have a problem with what organization you get in. The problem that I have is that you're misleading the people. You're deceiving the people. I had an opportunity. I said to myself, well, let me go and hang out with the Muslim. I was presented at one of your division a search. A woman 60 something years old being searched. Do you know how that felt? It was horrible. Then once I went through the search, then I sit down. The women were very unfriendly. I had to sit down. I didn't have to, but I sit down. I sit down and watch this young male stand up on stage spewing out his ego. It was disgusting. Nothing that I want to be a part of. And so I left and had no interest of going back. I had already seen that in the Christian churches. I definitely wasn't trying to do that. But I felt a need of, I want to belong. But as time progressed, I realized Judaism is not my thing. Christianity is not my thing. And definitely not Islam is not my thing because all of them create separation, segregation, hatred, judgmental. And I can go on and on and on, but I'm not going to do that. You got the gist of what I'm saying. And so here's the critical reflection and power of influence. There appears to be a broader system of control through hierarchy and hidden influences, where some groups view themselves as above and are enlightened, while leaving others to operate within manipulated institutions like education, religion, economics. This dynamics can contribute to confusion, division, inequality, regardless of which ideology promotes it. Do understand this. It has to be broken down. When I saw one of my singers, my favorite singers, and I followed her for quite some time, I used to go to all her concerts, pretty much, in this town. When she came to Atlanta, when she went to Mississippi, I was there because I enjoyed her singing. When I sit down, when I was watching some pictures, I saw her sitting at the feet of Farrakhan. I could not believe that she was doing that. That image for me showed me that she was worshiping this man. Now, if you are a literal book reader, Bible reader, the literal part tells you not to worship man. And it's funny, people always do that. Instead of listening to the message, people always want to focus on the speaker. Stop focusing on the speaker, whether it's negative, positive. Listen to the message. This man, this male, spews hatred. I don't care how popular he is. I don't care how many people died in his presence. Malcolm, people like Malcolm X. And there was another guy that was under the he died mysteriously, you know. And I'm sure there's other people that passed mysteriously. Those things I have no fear of because the physical body has to die anyway. And I truly know that I'm protected by the cosmos. So being that I'm protected by the cosmos, I have no fear of what man think he can do. Because what man does, he's allowed to do. And so if you are allowed to do, that means it's my time. But in the meantime, I'm going to speak what is given to me to speak, whether you hear it or whether you do not hear it. Now, I have attached some references that I have viewed myself. Let me just say this. In 2018, this is the Savior's Day speech. During this address, Farrakhan made several anti Semitic comments, including stating, "The powerful Jews are my enemy." This is what he said, and accusing Jews of being responsible for Hollywood's filth and degeneration behavior. He also referred to Jews the mother and father of apartheid. Now, we know that, but you come from that line, you know. And so my thing is, how much of that spewing, that hatred, comes from your childhood experience? Because what happens to people as an adult, they walk around with the pain and suffering of the childhood experience that they had. How do I know that? Because I had that problem. Don't have it now. I'm 68 years old, and I had to learn some lessons. And yeah, the point is, they were beautiful once I came through the process. Now, also, in 1997, the NAACP conference, in a speech, Farrakhan declared a war on Negroes, which was widely interpreted as a division and racial charged statement. Okay? 2012, Charlotte speech. During this speech commemorating the Million Man March, Farrakhan delivered a rhetoric filled with race based language, which was criticized for promoting division and hostility. And that is what this guy has been doing all these years. He even went further. Their organization went further. They say it came from FARD, which I do feel is an Albanian himself, and it went through Elijah Muhammad, and now Farrakhan saying that Yaqub, some mad science, created the white man. First of all, there is no such thing as a white man. He is an albino, okay? But that story came from the Muslim, the Islam nation. And I can say this by what I've seen with my own eyes. When you take a one that's called a black man and you take one that's called an albino female and put them together and they have a child, that child is going to come out light skinned. Okay? If you take what they call a black woman and you take a what they call an albino male, that child is going to come out probably a darker complexion than if it was with the albino female. I have watched that process for years, and I can tell you it does have to do with the skin color. But for me, it ain't about the color of the skin, it's about the substance, the behavior, the attitude, the productiveness of positivity for me. Okay? This man spews hatred. Even at his old age, he spews hatred. And you know what really, when I watch these people, and you must know, which is hidden and they don't publicly do it, polygamy. Polygamy says I can outright have another female, uh and the religion makes it uh acceptable, and I could do what I want to do. That is what the religion of Islam has done. And and it's even listed in the Bible that they had many wives and concubines. That is a man thing. That did not come from the great mother. People, use your common sense. And there's a woman in the Islam organization. She's written a book, and she knows that she is a part of the polygamy because that's what they do. And I'm going to tell you, polygamy hurts. Women have to learn to love themselves. And I have seen video after video after, way before I watched the videos, I knew that because of my heart. I divorced my ex-husband because he wanted to have somebody else outside of myself. That was not only dangerous for me as a woman sexually, it was dangerous for me mentally. You don't want to, what you don't understand, when you get into polygamy, you're sharing uh, fluids, you're sharing your spirit. And so when you're joining yourself to those people besides the two of you, that is not a good thing, especially if you're not operating in your higher self. He doesn't teach that. I see these men on the streets selling their fruits, selling the papers, just like the Jehovah Witness people. They do the same thing, but in a different way. But guess what? It's the woman that is subjugated. It's still the woman sitting on one side of the room where the male sits on the other side. There's a crazy ass guy. I don't know what he called himself, a preacher or whatever. This fool has guys surrounding him. The female sits on one side with the long ass dresses and the covered up head. I know their ass is hot. And then the guys standing around them, calling themselves speaking in tongues and stuff. That is crazy to me. That is crazy. Because he called himself speaking out of the Bible. The Bible tells you if you speak in tongues that you must have an interpreter. Ain't no interpreter going on with that man and his people. And these people just sit and be under this crap. Now that's what I call under the spell. But anyway, I just want to bring this to your attention. And so when they act like they're fighting with each other, Farrakhan and the system, They all under the same thing. Don't get it just like the Democratic and the Republican. They play. But I just wanted to let you know, people, open your eyes. See the real. Take care.